Hello everyone! Welcome to the Chaotic Wholesome Podcast. I am your host, Kate Purcell. I'm here with my amazing co-host, David. Say hi, David.
Hi, David.
And, fair warning, everyone. This might be the most chaotic of the Chaotic Wholesome Podcast to date, because, I am joined, for the first time ever, by my other co-host, my brand new co-host, Gilmore, the glorious gremlin. Yes, I love you, Gilmore. He is being a terror right now. But if I don't pay attention to him, then there's a very real chance that he will just, start screaming and destroy everything. So, here we are. Yes, I am Kay. You can actually find me tomorrow over on Todd Moonbounce's channel. Sounds like you may be using a different mic. Now, I was talking to Dave about this earlier. I've been having, let's see. No, I think that's doing a big echo. Yeah, definitely not that one. Everything works great, and then it just, stops. I know I'm a little quiet. I turned it up. I've adjusted the gain a little bit. I'm going to have to do a super deep dive on my mic. I'm sorry. It wouldn't be this show without it. And hi! Welcome! Thank you for the audio feedback. I always appreciate it. I can't always do stuff about it.
Such is life.
Such is life. And that sucks because I really want the audio on this to be good. I've spent a lot of time on it. And it works great until it doesn't. You know how it is. Oh, thank you, Steve. So, you can find me tomorrow over on Todd Moonbounce's channel. I am going to be playing Backroads. It is a, let's see. I'm going to be playing, it is an American Gothic horror game set in the South with the amazing Candace. Oh god, I don't remember who all now. There's so many amazing people that I'm playing with, and my brain just completely blank.
Here's where you post a tweet in chat.
I'm scrolling. I'm digging for it. Here we go. Here, look at these amazing people. I'm going to be playing with them tomorrow. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Southern K is going to be back. There's going to be an accent. I'm playing Sissy Joe. My captions have stopped now. Everything is just. Let's see if this is any better. I can't tell if it's back. I'm going to be playing Sissy Joe. It's going to be a good old time. And, there's a costume involved.
And, remember that the Backwaters expansion is on Kickstarter. So drop by and at least have a look at their page.
Yeah. If you like what you see, dive on in. It's an interesting system. Hello, JD, how you doing? And what else do we do? We're here every Tuesday doing this. David is amazing. And that's what I've got for this month. Next month, I am helping produce, and I'm going to be in one of the episodes of the Rainbow Roll. This is an amazing project that Todd Moonbounce, Candace the Magnificent, and I are working together on to bring to life. It is a 4-part one-shot series with Thirsty Sword Lesbians, which is an actual system, and it's amazing, and it's going to be a wonderful, thirsty time, and I can't wait for you all to see who all we have on the docket. I am so excited. I can't believe I get to play and work with some of these people. So, check out next month. That's, again, going to be on Todd's channel. And I think that's the end of my promos for now. Am I missing anything, David?
There will be, the podcast comes out next month, right?
Podcast, we changed the release date, so it's going to be releasing on Wednesdays instead of Saturdays, which is awesome. And I can pull up the exact one. Emergency Power Podcast. I'm the newest permanent member of the crew. Hooray! I'm going to be making my appearance there on Wednesday, June 22nd is when you'll see me. That's just a couple days after my birthday. We will have summaries up, so if you're new to the series and jumping in, you don't have to go listen to 2 years worth of content.
So you should.
You should. It's a fun podcast. Actually, you should probably listen to the summary of the first season, because they were still figuring out their audio too. And while I think the audio was fine, they're all very happy to just not have people listen to the first one. Hey, Candace! So, okay, yes, next month, that. Gilmore says hello. He is raising hell right now. But we are here today to talk about making your worlds feel alive, especially in campaigns. David, this was actually your suggestion, so why don't you talk to us about it? And I'm going to put this kitten on the tree.
So multiple people have talked to me about, like, okay, how do you do your world building? People hear about the custom world that I created. People hear the tidbits that we have allowed to escape for the source book and world that Kay and I are working on. And there's been a lot of questions of, well, how do you do this? And in the past, we've talked about NPCs, both for DMs and sort of like DMPCs versus NPCs that inhabit your world, because there is a fundamental difference there. And we've talked about lots of other different things about storytelling and whatnot, but we haven't gotten into the nuts and bolts of building your world. And the two sort of tenets that I always go with is, one, your world has to seem alive, and two, the world has to continue and perpetuate and move without your players. And based off of those two pillars, you can create a world that is immersive and interesting and complicated, and in a lot of ways goes in a direction that you don't necessarily expect. Like
you're immersive and complicated and interesting.
Right? Like, for instance, in Kay and my home game, there was a smidge of murder hoboing that happened, and unfortunate.
Believe it or not, it was not
right.
me. I was doing the opposite of murder hoboing.
But an aristocrat was copped an attitude at the wrong place, at the wrong time, and then there wasn't an aristocrat anymore. Which, fine, but in my world and in the worlds that you build, action should have consequences. And so instead of, oh my god, now they're in trouble for murdering someone, and now the whole town guard is looking for them, instead they're walking by and a town crier alerts the group and says, the murderers of said aristocrat have been found and punished. They were executed yesterday. And, you know, we've talked in the past about addressing murder hobos, and really there should really be an entire episode dedicated to murder hobos, but part of the consequence associated with being with not just being a murder hobo, but doing literally anything, is the ripple effects that happen, the impact that it has on your world, and the changes that you can make. And on the one hand, your players will go, gasp, oh no, I did a thing and now there are consequences. But on the other hand, your players will go, oh wait, I can influence this world, I can change things. Yeah. I'm not just limited to the story that the DM put in front of us.
Well, and with this example in particular, like, it was cool because it wasn't just like, oh, I did a thing and now there are consequences, right? It was like, oh, something bigger is going on here. Like, who got the blame? Like, we haven't done it yet, but like, it sent me, the player, wanting to know, okay, what's happening? Like, are we now in bigger trouble? And believe it or not, it wasn't just roll a 1 on Murder Hobo. It was I actively let the person not die, and then people went back and Murder Hoboed them behind my back again. So I was literally the opposite of Murder Hobo. And everyone was mad at me.
I mean, you gotta listen.
Look,
what's delightful is there's some amicable conflict
yes.
within our group. One of the many things I love about my players. I have the best players. If you're DMing and you find the best players, hold on to them. Doesn't matter what their schedule is like. If they can show up once, you handcuff them and you keep them in your basement and you don't let them go.
But yeah, you don't tell a D&D party they can't murder Hobo, especially if you're part of the D&D party that's trying to murder Hobo. You end up being very not popular. But still loved. Unpopular, but loved. At least in my case.
Yes.
I'm going to kind of build on that too and say, we talked in a previous episode, and look, I know, y'all know I'm a big fan of Critical Role. And again, I say this knowing that Critical Role has, especially in the past, has had a lot of problems, is still not perfect, has ways to go, and we can love it and still say it's got a ways to go, right? We could be critical of things we love. It's got a ways to go. But we recently talked, a while ago, timey-wimey, we talked about Call of the Netherdeep, which is the Critical Role setting, which is actually going to be really interesting because I think it's going to tie in really nicely with both Campaign 3 and the Calamity series. I can't wait to watch Calamity. But one thing that they specifically do, yes, be critical of the critical. One thing that they specifically do in Call of the Netherdeep is you don't just have like other NPCs that are, you know, around the world. You have a rival party, and you and this rival party are set down the same path. And the book basically tells you, like, this is this character's ambition. This is what this character is after. And there are things in the book where, you know, certain things will happen to these characters if you follow the story verbatim. But it's also like, hey, there should be the same numbers in this party as there are in your party. So if you've got 6 people, make up a new character to join this party. If you've only got 4 people, figure out when to kill one of them off. One of the rival NPCs. But they go through their own story of heroism and trauma. And I can't wait to run. Like, I really, there's an amazing, I think is it Black and Gold, Red and Gold, Steel and Gold? There's an amazing Netherdeep campaign going on right now featuring Stella Luna and other amazing people that is beautiful in quality, and I can't wait to run it because watching the party, watching your players go through their own challenges and watching these NPCs, watching this group of rival party members go through the same things and see how they react and seeing how they change with it and how that impacts them. Ooh, that's gonna be so good. So, another way of making your world feel alive. Creating, doesn't even have to be an entire rival party, but creating a space where, creating other characters who are deeply intrinsically tied with the story and with your party's characters, and seeing how they change and respond to all of this is also really, really powerful. David, I've talked too much, go.
It's funny that you bring that up, because one of the things, and like my other players in my home campaign, if you are here, then you can disappear for the next like 30 seconds. But I stole an idea, and I don't remember who it's from. If anybody knows, let me know so that I can attribute them on Twitter. But they said, put together a group of like younglings, like a group of urchins that are inspired by your group.
Oh my goodness, that moment. Also, I messed with my mic. Tell me if it's any better. I don't know.
And what happens is, if your party, gets further along in the story, gets reasonably high level, and all of a sudden one of your characters unexpectedly dies, then the street urchin that has been following your party and walking in their footsteps can step in and take up the mantle with that exact same class, maybe a level or two behind, depending on, how high level they are. But you don't have to come up with a reason for a random new person to just show up and then be part of the party. You could be like, hey, you've known these kids for a long time, so long that they're not kids anymore. And they have not just been fans, but they have taken up your cause. And so they could seamlessly step into that, for that big final fight with the big bad, or for that big castle siege. And you don't have to worry about scrambling to make a whole new character and yada yada. You could just knock a level or two off of your current character sheet and just switch the name over.
That is very clever.
But also, when it comes to NPCs in your world, and we've talked about this before, but part of your world having life and moving without your characters is your NPCs do things. And not just, they're off sleep, the innkeeper isn't going to be there at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. and 4 p.m. every day. You're going to have other things that happen. So-and-so is sick today, which could be a whole new storyline. People go on vacation, people get arrested, people have hangovers. There are all sorts of reasons that NPCs aren't in the same spot all the time just waiting to interact with your characters. If your characters like to knock off vendors, like go in and steal a bunch of magical items, then maybe a town over, they go into a store that sells similar things, and there are two big burly guys there. And it's like, what's this about? It's like, we heard that there were, thefts a town over, so we have to protect ourselves from it. But your NPCs go on dates and fall in love, and have kids, and their parents die.
Sneak around behind their parents' backs.
Right. They go 3 towns over to a cousin's wedding. They have siblings. They have, the more full lives they have, the more movement your players will see. And one thing I'd like to emphasize as we go through this is there is an immense danger in getting into the weeds when it comes to world building. Sci-fi and fantasy authors are notorious for this. They're one of the great sci-fi books is Hyperion, and I forget the author. And I read it and didn't like it. And the reason I didn't like it is because the whole book is about a bunch of really cool characters talking about the thing that they're going to go do. They don't actually go do the thing that they're going. But there's a solid 30-page chunk of Hyperion that just explains the technology. The ship is a world tree, and he just goes into every aspect of it. How they eat, and how gravity is generated, and how they travel through space, and environmental systems. Which, cool, but a 30-page block of just this is maybe not the most but I guarantee you the author loved writing that. That may have been his favorite part of the book. So you, as someone who develops your own world, don't necessarily get into the weeds. The third tavern that they go to drop off a message maybe that tavern keeper doesn't need to have a whole family tree. Maybe you don't need to have the lineage and former professions of everyone in that family tree. It's easy to do that. But, like, it's easy to do, like, the Genesis level, like, so-and-so begat so-and-so begat so-and-so, biblical, what's the word I'm looking for? But it's real easy to go.
Let's be honest. Bible isn't the most riveting read. It's got
right.
pops of excitement, followed by a
right.
whole lot of stuff that people don't remember.
Right. But giving your NPCs movement adds a lot of depth to your world. And branching off from that, your characters will meet people from all walks of life. They'll meet monarchs and kings and queens and dukes and duchesses. They will meet, assassins and thieves. They will meet merchants and tavern keepers. But think about what goes into civilization. Like what basic infrastructure makes the world turn. And then remember that for every element of that, there are multiple people who work in a coordinated fashion to make that thing exist for people. So in addition to, your standard, merchants, thieves, and kings, you also have well diggers and masons that build castle walls, construction people that build houses and storefronts.
And
you have artisans,
and candle makers.
And when you start thinking about, because everybody who's done world building has Googled what sort of things you'd find in a medieval village, I will circle back to that question in a second. And what the extra step from Googling those things is the people behind them. For instance, in my home world, there are multiple guilds of people that our players have not encountered yet. Like, there is a Masons Guild, and there's some drama going on with the Masons Guild that they have no idea about. But
do now.
You say, okay, there are bricklayers, there are people who work at a shipyard, and then you go, okay, well, are they, and is that a big enough thing for there to be an organized group? So a shipbuilder in a town in the middle of a forest is probably going to have less fellow shipbuilders than a shipbuilder at a major port. And so the shipbuilder at the major port might have a shipbuilders guild, might have a shipbuilders union. And then when you have organized groups, immediately you have politics. And so who would they ally themselves with? What sort of competition would they have? How do they work with the criminal underclass? All of these questions stem from, well, the pirates were in a ship battle and a cannon tore through the side. How do they repair that? And those details and those elements round out your world. And the elements of civilization and the people behind them also round out your world. How would you handle a planned 10 session campaign versus while keeping it alive? So I have a lot to say about this, but Kay, do you want to take a stab at this first?
Yeah, so Godplane was 10 sessions, and we definitely wanted, even if it was an illusion, to feel that what the players were doing was having a big impact on the world, because they were in a nightmare space. They were walking through a dream, and everything they did should have rippled out. One of the easiest ways to make a world feel alive and reactive is actually to call back to things that they did. So early on in the God Plan, they were walking through a space that was like a dollhouse, and they saw an eye within, looking in through a window. And it was not planned from the start, but everyone, obviously there was a big reaction to the eye. And then when we got to a place where they were in a house, and I wanted there to be a dollhouse, and I'm like, whoever looks into that dollhouse, that's the color of the eye that they saw. So we went back and had, we did this callback of there was this creepy thing that you remember. Now you see what could be the same thing, and you look inside, and then it was make me, I think it was wisdom or history. And they looked back and went, oh, that's my eye color. I saw my own eye. How? It's a nightmare world. It's bendy and it's twisty. But it made it feel alive. The things that they did rippled both through the future and through the past. And we did a whole lot of planting and foreshadowing. So with Tazik, he was going to be a major information dump. But we started seeding information about this character before. So people were so excited, the players were so excited to finally encounter this Tazik, and what's he actually like, and what's real, and is he as arrogant as he sounds? Could he actually help us? And so sometimes it's not even 100% of the world reacts to the things that you do. Sometimes it's building an anticipation, because then it feels like however you react isn't wrong. Right? Because we, in real life, build things up, and we build expectations about what's going to happen. And when those expectations don't meet that, when it's not 100% telegraphed, when things are different or unexpected, that makes it feel alive and real to us, because that's what we experience in our real lives. Go, David. I know you have a lot to say.
So, if you're planning a mid-length campaign, 10 sessions, first things first, remember that your players are going to throw you curveballs. And it's not just that they will throw you curveballs, but that they need room to be part of the collaborative storytelling. One of the things, so I've said before, Kay does a great job of building story blocks, not just for an episode, but for a length of episodes. And Kay will go, okay, we're doing episode 3 this week, we're doing episode 4. I need this, and this. Okay, that's going to be 3 hours or 45 minutes, so we'll cut this, and that'll be about 3:15. That's a little too long. We'll cut this. It'll be 2 hours and 50 minutes, and go. And guess what? At 2 hours and 50 minutes, 2 hours and 51 minutes, then we'll be done, and then we're just wrapping up the show. In addition to that, and I remember working on this during the summer before we did Godplay, Kay was looking at our outlines, and she's like, all right, the way I have this planned out, it's going to be 8 sessions, so we'll need 10. And I was just like, huh? And she's like, yeah, 10 sounds right. We're doing 10.
Roleplay.
And guess what? Landed the plane on the 10th episode. And I remember when we broke up the story into individual episodes, and we started doing episode by episode scripts, which if you're doing televised TTRPG, I highly recommend. Don't necessarily invest that much work in your home game, but give yourself cliff notes. But we had full scripts, and they're actually really cool.
Okay.
Kate does
To
really...
be fair, not full scripts. We were not telling any characters what to say. We were not telling players where to go. It's not that. It's not what people accuse Critical Role of being, right? But we had an outline. We had a general screenplay. I stole from B. Dave Walters. He's like, okay, start of the game, we're going to go here. By the midway point, I want us to be here. What happens after the midway point? I'd like to end up around here, but Mm.
And we also like put relevant lore dumps as notes in there. We put stat blocks in there. We did references for major NPCs and like all the quick information that you. It was basically an elaborate DM sheet tailored for each episode. So scripts is a bit misleading, but we put together some awesome documents for those. And in fact, I've actually gone back and referenced those for my home game and for other stuff that we're working on. So it's turned out to be a really good template. So when you're putting together your 10 episode or 20 session thing, for 10, leave room for your players to grow and to participate.
I just need you all to see that Gilmore is sleeping in my dice box now. Continue. I'm sorry. Continue.
And also, so that means put less story in it than you think.
Yeah.
It is better to wrap up the story and have everything done in episode 8, session 9, and then go, oh well, we didn't make it to 10, but everybody got to experience the full story, than to get to session 12 and go, okay, well, we need another 6 sessions in order to, and for a home game, great, but different people have different pieces that move. I tried to put.
I was going to say also, start looking when you build in your stories. So see if you can figure out little pieces that, like, if we've got time, if we haven't gone over, we can put this in. But, like, if it's been a super heavy roleplay session and the players are really clicking in these characters, like, we can just skip that. I can lore dump it later. Or I can move this lore dump somewhere else in the series. Because the worst thing I think you can do as a GM for a streamed campaign is get in the way of your players, get in the way of the characters. Let them be the star. Your story is a stage for them to do their thing. So, and if that comes down to, oh no, all of this that I planned, I don't really like it anymore, that's totally fine. I will say in Godplane, what I had planned for Rook was not at all what it ended up being.
Completely different.
And it was a better story because I just rolled with what the character was doing. Continue, David. I'm so sorry. I just realized we have music.
I was trying to put together a short campaign with a couple of friends, fourth quarter last year, and one of the people I was talking to, who's going to be one of the players, was like, all right, I can do it on this day, every other week, but in January, I have to go to Florida to go to school. And I was looking at what I was trying to run, and I was like, at best, we will finish the week you have to leave or the week before. And let's face it, getting 5 adults to sit down at the same time, even every 2 weeks, is tough. So, plan to miss a session or 2. We don't have time to run this. So, there can be real time constraints for your home campaigns as well. So, keep your story focused and streamlined. Put less story in it than you think you need. And make sure you keep room for your players to do their thing.
And we said this when we talked about it before, but I'm just going to say it again because it bears repeating. Don't punish your players for not being able to make it. So like going back to Godplane again, with Godplane, we knew we were doing 10 episodes, and we had a player who couldn't make it for very valid reasons, couldn't make it.
Super important reasons.
And, it was literally like, you can kill off my character. if that helps, right? If I don't make it to the final, and I didn't want that. Like, if we got to the final battle and this player character wanted to make a heroic sacrifice, I was all about that, right? I will, every chance I get, do the heroic sacrifice. But I wasn't going to punish the player. And again, part of the reason the story became so good was because I kept finding valid and relevant and creative reasons for that character to not be in the game. And by doing so, it made the final arc so much more meaningful and so much more connected to the character of the story, because I didn't go, well, you weren't here, so you don't get, I'm going to take what I went, okay, you know what? You showed up for, 7 of 10 episodes. You put in that time. You committed your character. You were willing to go with whatever I needed. How can I reward you for the times you did show up? And how can I make your absence actually important? Because absences can be just as important as presences.
Yeah. That's something that Critical Role has taught us. And I haven't watched a whole lot of Critical Role, but I did watch the TV series. And what's her name? Yeah. What's her name? Pike. Pike's absence and then return was a big pivotal moment in the series, and that is purely orchestrated by the fact that Ashley Johnson, the player, couldn't be there for chunks of the sessions because of work requirements. And so instead of them, blowing off Pike or finding a reason to kill Pike, they kept Pike a part of the storytelling and a part of the group, and it ended up being a key part to the whole third act of that story arc.
And if you watch, there's a thing that happens in the animated series, and I'm not going to spoil stuff, but there's a key moment where Pike suddenly stops being there. It is key, it is crucial, it is horrible, and that actually happened because she was video calling in to the game and her internet went out, so huge moment, suddenly the cleric is gone, and it made for such a great moment, especially retelling it in the animated series. So if you don't know this, you don't understand why, it was such a big deal, and it was so great. Anyhow, I'm done gushing. That was just a wonderful moment.
And also, as a DM, I am always really grateful at all of my players showing up to play, and their willingness to work with each other, their willingness to give ground and make space for each other, and I want to honor their commitment to the game, and reward and thank them for their eagerness to participate. And so I'm not going to do something that inhibits their ability to play in the future. I want to encourage them. You get more bees with, you get more flies with honey than vinegar.
Yeah.
Which is something I should probably tweet, because Lord knows Twitter maybe needs a little of that. But other key things for world building, and this is something that I did a couple of years ago, that I circled back to recently, and that is the importance of the elements of your setting, your climate, your flora, your fauna. For one of my modules, I'm building a monastery and a temple in the desert. And, for anyone who has had a stint of a fascination with ancient Egypt, as many of us have done, there there's lots about like mummies and lots about how the heat and the arid climate preserved all these things. Um, but there's also a lot of wildlife in the desert, like scarabs and cats and scorpions and all of these other creatures that interact with things, um, with that interact with you. Right. Um, and so having to think about, okay, yeah, there's going to be like sand and dust everywhere, but are there going to be spider webs? What kind of spider webs are going to be? Are there spiders? If so, what kind of spiders? And apparently in my campaigns there are always spiders, and multiple people I know have a problem with spiders, and I don't know why I keep doing this, but how the fauna interacts with your flora. What does an oasis look like? What sort of like plants and animals would be seen there? And a good example of that is a section that I had for my players in the recent weeks. They went through a forest, and there is they went through a forest. I have a particular climate picked out for the region they were in, which means I then had to go Google what type of trees grow in this climate, and then out of those, to like, is it evergreen? Is it deciduous? Like, and that lends to what is the undergrowth like, and that leads into the most important part of building your world and giving your world life is the senses. The senses are how we interact with the world, how we learn about things, like the touch of a cat, or right. And if you haven't been to a Ren Fair, I suggest you go. Like, so not every TTRPG campaign is set in a fantasy world. There are westerns, there's urban fantasy, there's futuristic cyberpunk, there's space stuff. But I think that Ren Fair gives you a great grounding as to sort of the tactile experience when it comes to a fantasy world setting. Because before I ever went to a Ren Fair, I knew what hay smelled like, and I knew what horses smelled like, and and just dirt, and all these other tactile sensory elements of a less industrialized world I experience. But there are a lot of us who are also city people. And I can remember the first time I ran into a horse, and the first time I smelled hay, and the first time I smelled a forest. And a lot of that sensory input we don't necessarily care about in a city. So with cities, it's all about what you see and what you hear. You see reflections, you see people in surfaces, because there's glass and metal and just reflective surfaces everywhere. So it's really easy to have an ambient awareness just through those surfaces. Also, sounds are important. Minus like Priuses and electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles now. But before, you could hear a car, and you could definitely hear a motorcycle before you saw it. You could hear people yelling before violence breaks out. And most of the major dangers that you encounter in a city, even if it's just a helicopter overhead, it is a sound associated with that, or a sight associated with that, rather than smell or taste, or the other senses. but being out in the forest, or even being in something set in a rural or farm-based or agrarian or medieval setting, a lot of that changes. And there's a reason that so many animals and creatures have heightened senses of smell, is because that is the major sort of danger notification. And so, and what I do on my DM screen, and Kay and I both did this for Godplane and for the charity one shot we did, where there's a big note up at top that says keep in mind the five senses, taste, touch, smell, sight, sound, so that when you're describing things to your players, they get the crunch of leaves under their feet, the smell of the oak trees, the texture of the bark. They get all of those sensory details that really puts you as a player into the world.
And don't be afraid to do it as a player as well. I've known several people, one of whom might be lurking in the chat still, who was like, this is important to me, like, what does this stuff smell like, and asking these questions. And other people were like, oh, that never would have occurred to me, but like, that's really cool now that you've asked it and I have that answer. I also specifically remember, because David knows how heavily invested I am in my Paladin and the Flying Spaghetti Monster, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about not just, what is her magic, right, but how does it work? What is it, what does it look like? How is it different from normal? And that's a big thing now, is like, what does your magic missile look like? I forget which book it is, but just recently came out, and it's like, this is what magic missile usually looks like, but ask your characters what they look like. When I was doing the Trevor Project stream for Team Liquid last June, almost a year ago, with Dave, the frickin' Flying Spaghetti Monster materialized. And I asked, like, he's like, he appears before you. And I'm like, does the air smell like fresh cooked pasta? And I watched Gabe's face go, yes. And it was joy for him, for me to have put that out there. And he did suddenly get a lot more descriptive, because now he knew I was into it. I'd given him something to go off of, and we just springboarded from there. Right, Gilmore? Hey, Gilmore? He can't decide if he's going to try to wake up or if he's just going to accept the inevitable. He really can't decide.
He does look sleepy.
He's so like sleepy, but also he would like to wake up and cause terror.
And when you include those elements, you could then use those elements to tell your players something is wrong. Just like, if you have dock workers and bricklayers who are getting into it for whatever reason, because you've used the idea of there are walls here, therefore someone built them, therefore there's a group of people who built walls. There are boats here, and someone had to build the boat, therefore there are boat builders here, and there are people who take things off of the boats and put them onto the boats. Through those progressions to flesh out your world, you also have, you can follow those same progressions with senses. Like, someone goes into an ancient tomb and the air is musty and acrid and awful, or the air is dank and smells like animal BO or smells like decay, and that can be a big tip-off to your players, because if they're paying attention and they go into a recently discovered ancient temple that no one has ever been in for hundreds of years and it smells like decay, that's a problem, because nothing's supposed to be alive. Or vice versa, and so on. Like, a couple of sessions ago, I told my players, I was like, you feel the ground rumble. and they saw some NPCs freak out because it's not a place that has earthquakes. Like, if you live in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Santa Barbara, and you feel the ground rumble, you go, and then you go on with your life. But, you live somewhere where that doesn't happen. Like, you live in Chicago and the floor rumble, or the ground rumbles, then you're like, oh, wait, this is a problem. Same thing, a couple years ago in Compton and Watts, there was a hailstorm. And there are places in this country, like Wyoming, Wisconsin, Montana, where if there's a hailstorm, everybody goes inside and they're like, whatever. But in Compton, hailstorm, what? And you could use all these different elements to build upon your storytelling and add information for your players, in addition to making your world a living, breathing experience.
Okay, I'm going to try and lift the kitten without waking him, because he is very trapped out right now.
Yeah, you are trapped.
Yeah, no, it's good. I will take this. I will take this for the time being. Another really cool way to make... Look, if he starts sleeping on that cat tree, I have cat cam ready, right? I just couldn't get my heckin' cats to sleep anywhere where I could cat cam them. Gilmore seems to be very happy on that cat tree, so we might very well have a cat cam. Another thing that you can do to really make your world feel alive is like let your players influence it. And I know, David, you did this with one of our characters is dwarf and was really big on mining, and like you were going to have like a couple mines and that was it. But because he was super into all this, you went deep down that rabbit hole and researched it. We've also talked about I'm sad I don't get to do it for you first. I'm actually doing this in the Starfinder game. But we had talked about I have a character who reads tarot, and I read tarot. So David had said, like, if you ever play this character in my game, your tarot card readings are absolutely going to impact things. And granted, I don't know how it's going to shake out in Starfinder, but I have already done, like, I did a pull, like, for the party before we started, just for giggles. And then I've done a tarot reading for one of the characters, and, like, it's really cool how, yes, that's one of my talents, it's also something my character's doing, it's also impacting the mindset of the players and characters. Whether they believe it or not, it's going to impact. And then depending on what kind of DM you are, you can prove that wrong, or prove that right, or slightly alter your plans, the way things are going to happen, so some of that symbolism appears. So even though this is what you planned from the start, now some of those things are starting to surface, and it makes it incredibly creepy and cool for players.
It's also a little infuriating for DMs because Kay will pull cards, like, during breaks or before or after sessions, and be like, oh, hey, player, I'm going to pull some cards for your character. And I'm sitting here listening to Kay give spoilers for that person's character in our fucking game. And I'm at a crossroads where it's like, do I want to change everything now because she spoiled it? Or do I want to just let it play out as I had planned and let her prediction come true?
The first pull that I did for the Starfinder game, I did it for the crew. I'm like, okay, here's the crew, and the DM's like, Adam's amazing, and he's like, how did Kay's magic cards get a peek inside my DM notes? Like, it's weird when these things start happening, but it's really fun. It's really fun for me. I don't know if it's fun for the DM, but it's really fun for me.
And at some point, I'm going to do a module based off of the Major Arcana, because I just recently watched an old anime where each episode, the title card was a tarot card, and the main character in the story read tarot and then influenced the story. And there are a lot of things that happen, including them sneaking a high school romance into a mecha anime, which I'm really mad about. But when it comes to tarot, you can do a lot of interesting things, and it can be a really interesting storytelling element. Now, the question is, can we use the segue when you only have one arm?
It's going to be difficult, but I will do it for you, chat. I will do it for you, stream. So, Kitten is still very much out.
Wow, sleep.
Yes. But this was not supposed to be here until halfway through next month. I bought myself an early Christmas present, or early Christmas, that would be an early birthday present. And it arrived today, weeks ahead of schedule. This is the official Dungeons & Dragons tarot card deck. Being very clear, this is not product placement. I was not given this. I paid my own hard money for it, so YouTube. But
Wizards of the Coast, if you want to sponsor us,
exactly. Anytime you want me to
call.
Send me your product, Wizards of the Coast. So this is a
I have
whole
a top-notch show.
They usually come with how to read guides, which I have not dived into yet. Oh god, this is going to be so difficult with the kitten. Okay, here we go. So, this is the deck. It is chonky. It is not small.
Chonky deck.
It is not as... So, the deck that I use, and I'm only pulling out one of these cards. This is the deck that I usually use. It's beautiful. It's gilded. It's got gorgeous art. This is not quite as oversized, but almost.
Wow.
So they are lovely, beautiful. They have a great texture. One-handed, this is so challenging. They're slightly textured, as you can see, and very waterproofed. They're also nice and flexible, so you can bridge shuffle these without breaking them, or without distorting them. So this is... Are you the King of Wands, or are you the King of Pentacles? Which king are you? Okay, hold on. So...
Which Danny are you?
This has got to be... Look at the artwork on these. And everyone... I'm going to turn this way again, just for... Okay. These are just the minor arcana. Oh, here's a big old dragon. However, this is Todd Kendrick's character. Like, you can't tell me that this isn't, oh heck, what's his name? He's the Lich. It's killing me. Arwen? Argon. His trickster god character. The artwork is just incredibly beautiful, and I cannot wait to dive into it more. That's the Empress. Y'all, I'm about to pull the Emperor card, and I need you all to visualize what an Emperor in D&D would be. And then I need you to see that fucking Vita is on the throne here.
That's top notch. That is an unexpected turn.
So, let's see. Look at this. This is the Lover's card. And they are ready to charge into battle together. There's... Oh, the Chariot. I think... I'm always debating if Roxy is Strength or the Chariot. But the Chariot is always near and dear to my heart. And this is gorgeous. Oh, Strength is an orc!
Fair.
My Roxy. So yes, gorgeous tarot cards. I'm going to, I'm sure, be posting more about them. Ooh, the Wheel of Fortune. Oh no. Oh no. I'm boned. Oh no, I dropped it. I can't wake up the kitten. Okay. So, these are very lovely. I don't know. I guess they're out. They weren't supposed to be out until the 16th, but here we are. And,
I can't wait to see the TikTok related to this.
Oh yeah. So now I can do D&D card readings with D&D cards. Death is gorgeous. Look at this tiefling. I follow them to death. So, yes, that was... Oh, look at the devil.
Oh, yeah, that's decadent.
So, that is my massive nerdery. The tower has Tiamat. The tower has Tiamat on it. Because of course it does.
Yep. So, here's a tarot question for you. Which deck would you say you've given the most readings with?
Oh, absolutely. This one. This beautiful gilded deck. It's Art Nouveau. Even
when it comes to
Drunk at a Bar?
Your travel deck?
Yes. But the travel decks are also much, much newer. Much more new. I've had this one since...
Oh, since you were in LA?
Yeah, since the beginning of the pandemic. Why you making faces?
Because some of my friends like to send me messages when they know I am on camera.
Really? It was not me for once. Was it Kato? I would be surprised if it was Kato.
Oh no, you're gonna get screenshots later. It's gonna be good.
Oh boy. But yeah, I don't know. Chat saying that this is very, very similar or exactly like the Inquisition one. So I don't know which came first, who copied what, but...
I will say the tarot deck in Inquisition was really cool. Like, I kind of want to... I'm going to Google if you can actually buy that.
I am definitely going to have to figure out the minor arcana. It's not, I'm guessing this is cups, because there is a cup, but it's not as clear.
Okay, they look really similar. Really similar.
I'm assuming this is the Four of Wands.
This item is unavailable.
Oh no! Well, yeah, now I'm going to have to go look up the Inquisition deck and look at this and see what we got.
Yeah, it was officially a tarot deck in Inquisition, as I remember. It's been a couple years since I played that beloved game. I've been whispering to myself that I should go back and play it, but I have a lot of time to commit to both Outriders and Monster Hunter Rise, because they both have expansions coming out next month. Oh boy.
Okay, so that's swords, that's wands. Like, I have no idea which suit this is supposed to be. It's a 7 of something. It's a 7 of stealing a turkey leg.
I mean, I've been that guy.
Yeah. But have you been this weird little monster with his little chicken butt and his tongue? Okay. Ooh, Oracle deck. But yes. So, to recap, making your world feel alive. The senses and the descriptions...
Put tarot deck cards in it.
Yes, put tarot cards in it. And watch just the world melt. Like, watch probability just... Also, this is so almost Kinley.
Yep.
It's a problem. Could be the 7 of Swords. It could be a 7 of Swords. They do seem to be fighting, just over food. I'm gonna have to dig through the whole thing and see what's... Hi, are you awake now? Would you like to show your little face? No, I want to sleep my little face. Oh. 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 Yes. No? Sometimes he does his back. Sometimes no.
Wow.
But, creating NPCs that will do their own thing and will inhabit the world and will move and expand and ignore the sirens outside my building that are so ridiculously loud even though I'm so far up. Wow.
Hey, they heard you.
I'm a wizard! I'm a wizard! Gil? Or not. Making sure there's movement and things are moving and changing. Even cities themselves, right? If you go into a space and it's a really rundown part of town and the party leaves for a long time, and you come back and suddenly that favorite dive bar has been gentrified or has been burned down, right? That's going to have a big impact. And what does that mean about your world? And how is that going to impact what your players do? Yes, New York is very excited about this stream. And yes, he's very adorable. It melts me. He's a little terror, and I couldn't love him more. David, your big thing was census, so talk to us about the census. Give us that little recap there.
When it comes to census, one, remember all of the census, both when you're planning out your set areas where your set pieces are going to occur, and especially in your common areas, like the tavern that you always come back to as your home base, or the guild home that your players return to. Always remember all 5 senses when you're doing that, to give that life, and also use that as a springboard to communicate more information about the world and its changes to your players.
Give your players a foil when possible. So in Call of the Netherdeep, there's a whole rival party. In Black Dice Society, this just happened this last week, so I'm going to speak carefully so as to not spoil things, but there was an NPC that the party was very attached to and did a lot for, and helped bring into a better situation. They left to go on a mission, and they came back to find that NPC radically changed. And even though, yes, the space, the area around them had changed, the place where this NPC lived was different, it had aged, it was less this, more this. The thing that was impactful was seeing that character, but also seeing how much they had impacted that character. Because, as my asshole character in Starfinder will say sooner or later, right, if you want to change the world, change one life. And hopefully that life will ripple out and change another life and change another life. And that is how you save the world. That's how you change the world. So showing the party their impacts, big and small, will make your world feel very, very alive. And work with your characters' backstories, work with your characters' interests to incorporate it, and
you might have to build an arena and a bunch of restaurants. But such is life.
You might have to put up with tarot card readings that spoil all of your plans. And as we said earlier, especially in the stream campaign, know when to get out of the way of your players and your characters. So just because you came up with a really cool thing, you come up with a thing, someone says, oh, is it a full moon? I heard a wolf howling. Are there werewolves here? You don't have to say there's werewolves every time. But if they get really freaked out about it, or they start spinning ideas about what if wolves came from up above above, maybe make it mostly right. Maybe they're not 100% right, but maybe you never thought of incorporating that. But now you will. Because that's fun.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of, hey, I'm worried about this thing. Is it there? And it's like, now it is. It wasn't before, but now it's definitely there.
I am rather careful about only saying certain things within points of the game.
Because you never know when a lich might show up. But yeah, and I think the point we've danced around this whole time is what gives your world life is change. The world has to change and grow some people's lives have to get better. Some people's lives have to get worse. The wheels always have to turn. Time is a flat circle. Other quotes from True Detective. But
Time is
as
a flat
long
circle. The world is not, and that's very funny because one of the characters in Critical Role is a flat earther. Only it's not Earth because it's Exandria.
Wow.
Yeah. You can guess who. The biggest troll in the world. Yeah, that's who it is.
Oh my God, why? Anyway. But the point is, your world has to grow. Your world has to change. And your players can be and should be part of that growth and change.
And I think that's it. And Terra decks are really cool.
Yes.
Terra decks are really, 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 really cool.
If you are at a bar in New York and you see Kay there, ask for a reading.
I have 2 travel decks, so I can do the thing.
So you have your show tomorrow. Tell us again about your show tomorrow.
So tomorrow I'll be over on Todd Moonbounce's channel playing Sissy Joe in the Backroads game. This is a Kickstarter that's going on right now for the Backroads expansion. This is a survival American Gothic horror game. It's a mighty fun system, and I can't wait to get lost in it. I am got a whole costume and a whole thing going on. It might melt David. David's going to be sending me curse words.
Yeah, I'm prepared.
I literally went and dug out my pearls for this. Oh, I hope that's the right one. Okay, yes, that's the right link. So I sure do hope to see y'all there. It's going to be a treat. And then, coming up, let's think. What's next? We're here every Tuesday, as always. Coming up in June, there's one more thing that might be coming up in June. I believe starting in June on Wednesdays, we're going to finally be airing the Strixhaven game that I got to play in. It's a edited actual play, so we cut out a lot of the stuff, and it's just a really fun production, and told a really sweet story. That's going to be happening on my channel. I believe it's happening this June. I'm waiting on, I believe, the final, but Steve might be in here to confirm. I forgot about that. I have too much. And then we're doing the Rainbow Roll with the amazing Candace the Magnificent. Sirens are so loud today. And Todd over on Todd Moonbounce's channel. And again, starting in June over at Emergency Power Podcast, I will be every Wednesday. You will find me on Emergency Power Network not starting until the 22nd. 22nd is when I appear. The new season starts 2 weeks before that. I can't math that well to know exactly what it is, but the Wednesday, 2 weeks before the 22nd, is when season 3 begins, and I show up in episode 2. But it's great. There will be some summaries, and there's a Discord if you would like to join the Discord and ask questions, see art, and all that. I'm pulling together some social plans. It should be a good time. I think that's it.
Yep.
I think that's it. Anything else, David?
Just that I'm really excited to see all of the people who are playing, who are just doing things next month. Next month is going to be very busy for the tabletop community, and I encourage everyone, go find your favorite creators. If you can, donate. Check Kickstarters, and just lurk and hang out and watch stuff. It's going to be a good time.
It's going to be amazing.
I know there's a lot of stuff I'm looking forward to.
Thank you to Web Captioner for our captions today. Thank you to Bardley.io for the music that I remember to put on halfway through this episode. I'm a little scattered, y'all. I'm the new owner of a kitten. I've not owned a kitten in my adult life.
Yeah. And thank you to our co-host, Gilmore.
I would pick him up, but he looks...
But he's yeah.
Just... Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can... Yeah. Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Nope.
He's real happy right there. Thank you so much, chat, for hanging out, for asking questions, for interacting. I've said it before. I have the best frickin' community, and I don't know what I did to be so lucky to have you all If you have questions or episode topics, please hit us up. I am Kate Dampier. He's Full Rubber Ducky. We're here. We are happy to chit chat, and we thank you again for being such an amazing audience. I'm going to flip us over to our out screen, and then we are going to see who we can raid to tonight. So thank you again. I can't wait to see you next month when all of the things will be happening. And thank you again for all of your continuing support. You're amazing, and I will see you soon.